Здравствуйте! Сегодня мы продолжаем работу над портретом. Это будет наш итоговый урок перед тем, как мы начнем делать форму с портрета. Форма с портрета в этот раз будет двухкусковая. Вы помните, что на первых уроках мы делали форму с рельефа. Она была плоская, однокусковая. В этот раз будет две формы, две половины, которые мы сделаем также из гипса. Но эта информация относится к следующему уроку. К этому уроку мы просто заканчиваем портрет. Много работаем иглой, мелкими инструментами, делаем все детали, мы заканчиваем портрет. В конце урока я скажу, что принести на следующий урок для того, чтобы сделать форму. Мы видим, что все формы у нас очень мягкие. Все портреты разные, так же, как все люди разные. Иногда у людей есть характерные черты, ярко выраженные. И можно сделать, зачастую это плохо, учиться на таких людях, потому что, поймав характерную черту, вы фактически не учитесь делать портрет, а используете эту черту. Есть люди, у которых меньше каких-то таких вещей, за которые можно уцепиться. И в обучающем процессе это только позитив. Потому что сложности делают учебный процесс более плодотворным.
Mark Quinn's self-portrait is an intriguing example of contemporary portraiture. In its making, the artist used his own blood as one of the materials. In this way, the portrait can be seen literally as his own body part. The artist has appropriated himself and made himself out of the ordinary material of life. In the postmodern view of the world, we can regard anything as available for us, regardless of its trend in history, as long as it is suitable for our expressive ends.
Да я шею сделаю, что-то никак к шее не подберусь. Так, ну давай с глазами что-то решим теперь с твоими. Так. Christine, hello again.
Hello.
We're in an art studio of Christine Post. So let's listen and let's look around. Let's talk about your pieces and your themes. Last time we spoke about Amazons. So this time, what's your second favorite theme?
Well, I'm working on a pack of dogs at the moment. So I think I have about 10 so far, and I'm hoping to add more dogs this summer in my studio. And that piece is to continue the theme about human beings and the environment, and how human beings like to control the environment, and how we have interfered really with, well, we've domesticated wolves, and we now have so many different breeds of dogs, and it's sort of become a hobby with people who don't really know what they're doing. But anyway, we have all these different breeds of dogs, and we think that we can control what they look like. So my dogs have got all the attributes of human control. So they have muzzles, and they have collars, and they have little woolly jackets that have been knitted for them. And you know, we love our dogs, and as I say, we've domesticated them, and they've become part of our families, and we've had this very long connection with them. But actually, I'm not sure that we can control them, because dogs prefer to be with other dogs, and when they're together, as you can see from my dogs, they look a little bit sinister, so they revert to their natural wolf-like behaviour. So that's the theme that I'm exploring in this, and it's about, again, our control of the world around us, or trying to control the world around us.
When you were younger, your themes, they were more about yourself and feminist and this.
Yeah. I think my first exhibition I had was called Strong Women. So when you look at my early pieces, they were very self-confident young women, I suppose. They were skipping with snakes, they were holding crocodiles aloft, you know, because they were very strong. I wanted to make these strong, uplifting pieces full of energy. And then I went on, I think my second exhibition was exploring ideas of how women have been misrepresented throughout history. So there are images of bad women, what I called bad women, who were the sirens, the femme fatale, who were sort of luring men to, you know, an uncertain destiny, because women were seen to have this sort of sexual power over males, which they couldn't resist even if they wanted to. So that's when I became interested in evolutionary psychology, biology, and why we are who we are. We were talking earlier about concubines, and well, that's just an example of patriarchy. And in evolutionary terms, you could say, well, that's a male wanting to have as many offspring as he can. So he would not just have one wife, who could maybe give him 10 children in her lifetime. If he's got 2 wives, then he could have 20 offspring, and that way make sure that his genes are generated for, you know, for the future.
I believe it's unconscious.
Sorry?
So it's not conscious.
It's
desire.
not conscious.
Yeah,
it's all to do with how we've evolved. It's a strategy. It's a strategy for survival.
So in other words, in the beginning you're more focused on yourself, and now your projects, they're more reflection.
They're still who else can, you know, I have to express myself, and I'm a female, so people have often said, you know, why are they all females? Well, obviously they're females, well, for 2 reasons actually, because I think there's a balance that needs to be addressed. So I was telling you before about, you know, sort of parodying sort of, you know, the male gaze, so making sculptures about the female gaze and how females actually see their bodies. I mean, you don't see sculptures about menstruating women, or not many that I know of. So I wanted to make sure that I was showing those images, showing images about childbirth and menstruation, and showing the naked female body as it feels to me. It's a taboo subject. You don't hear about menstruation. You know, there are certain taboo subjects, you know, like the male phallus, for example. So some of my pieces, I think I've only made 3 sculptures with, you know, phalluses, but you know, people get very excited about that because it is a taboo subject. And actually, one of my favourite pieces, for me anyway, which is a very strong statement, is Victims and Murderers.
Let's talk today about your materials, because I see this amazing woods around, and probably you have long story how you discovered this material and why wood.
I discovered wood through the process of woodcut printmaking, and I discovered that the actual carving into the block was very exciting for me, and I then started carving in relief, and then the relief carvings turned into more 3-dimensional carvings, and that's what I've been doing ever since. The wood that I use is mostly lime wood, and it's the name is in Latin is Tilia vulgaris. It's a forest tree. It is traditionally an excellent carving wood. So we have in the 18th century we had a woodcarver called Grinling Gibbons who used lime wood. In Renaissance,
Here in England?
here in Britain, yes, he was English. Well, I think he was Dutch actually, but he worked in Britain. And in Europe we had Riemenschneider and we had Wittstoss. They were in these German sort of states, and they were itinerant woodcarvers. They moved around from city to city. Wittstoss, for example, worked at St Mary's Church or Basilica in Krakow in Poland, where he carved a huge altarpiece, which my father showed me when I was a child, and I was stunned because I'd never thought of wood as painted, and this was very brightly painted and beautifully and intricately carved, and I found that fascinating. Lime wood, as I say, it's a forest tree. It is a hardwood. It's classified as a hardwood as opposed to a softwood, but it is one of the softer hardwoods, and it's very kind of cheesy to carve, so it's perfect for carving. But I have tried other woods as well, but I prefer lime wood. And also, because I want to paint my carvings, lime wood, because it's a very sort of, it doesn't have any grain in it, like oak, for example. It's a very kind of even grain, and it takes paint very easily, and I put the paint in layers straight onto the wood.
What kind of paint do you use?
I use oil colour because the linseed oil and the turpentine dilute the oil colour, and you can build up layers of colour in that way.
Do you use any top layer?
I do seal them, yes. I seal the carvings. It's like a varnish, so that protects it. But you could also use just a wax if you wanted to. But nowadays there are so many fantastic products on the market that it seems a shame not to use them.
From our talking, I realized actually you found yourself very early.
I knew that I wanted to be an artist, but I didn't know how to actually achieve this. And my parents didn't want me to go to art college. I went to university to read English, but when I got there, I discovered that I could change. I could change courses, and I did the history of art and Italian, but there was some practical work involved, but not enough for me. And when I graduated, I still didn't know how to become an artist, though I felt myself to be one. I was a graphic artist for several years when I lived in Canada, because I've travelled a lot. I was about 29 when I met my husband when I was 28, I think, and I remember him saying to me, "What do you do?" And I introduced myself to him as an artist, but I didn't have a body of work. So it was shortly after that that I decided I really had to focus on what I wanted to do in life.
Does your husband support you to be an artist?
Yes, I think yes. I think we're both interested in the same things. So I'm interested in biology, he's interested in art. So it was a good coming together. Well, all artists need support, and you need emotional support, and you also need financial support. I've done a lot of teaching myself, a lot of residencies, trying to sell my work. It's not an easy profession.
Do you recommend our students to take such a path to become an artist?
I think that it's one of the most exciting and one of the most privileged professions in the world.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We will be back again to Christine's studio very soon. Thank you.
Glass of Absinthe by Picasso is one of the most characteristic sculptures of the modern age, utilizing the techniques of assemblage and defamiliarization. The artist took ready-made everyday objects and assembled them, arguably creating a kind of portrait. In this way, not only was a new, non-representationalist way of making sculpture achieved, but the question of objecthood was fundamentally examined. By recontextualizing objects into an artistic situation, the semiotic meaning of objects such as sugar, a spoon, and a glass of absinthe were extended. In this case, multiple meanings appear at the same time. The components of the portrait still have their original connotation, but they have been adopted by an innovative form of portraiture. Due to its abstract form, the glass of absinthe is open to multiple forms of interpretation. The implication of this is that the rights of reading a work of art are now shared between the maker and its audience. This approach decentralizes the network of interpretive power into a much more open form. Is it a landscape or a portrait? Well, it can be both, and it could be neither. Brancusi is a highly influential modern artist who evoked the beauty of lines and the abstract in sculpture. He was inspired by African primitive masks. Unlike Giacometti, Brancusi's treatment is calm, smooth, and aesthetically pleasing. The texture of the material that he used was superbly articulated. For example, here, the golden reflection of the bronze and the slightly tarnished dark brown colour mark the hairline of the head figure. This reveals the remarkable and flexible features of the bronze. Brancusi also reduced the ear in a minimalist approach. The eyes are blurred and not sharpened, featuring the subject matter, which is sleeping beauty. This piece is a fine example that shows how crucial the selection of materials is to the eventual artistic outcome. Even though nowadays casting is more of a profession in itself, and artists are less involved in it than they used to be, it is still important that sculptors know and understand the characteristics of different materials in order to achieve the best and most precise artistic expression possible.